Wow, this is incredible. I'm just about at 13,000 feet right here, and sunset is coming along real soon, which means an awesome opportunity to take landscape photography. Hey there, this is Creation Images, where I share my in-the-field landscape photography, the skills I've learned over 20 years of hiking and backpacking in the wilderness, as well as the insights and the inspirations that I've received along the way. If you're new here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button and ring the bell below so that you can receive notification every time I come up with a new adventure. Anyway, I hope this video is helpful to you, and I really appreciate you being here, so thanks for watching. More and more people are getting great cameras, and they're wanting to get that great shot as well. I was in that boat for a long time and struggled with mediocre photos, but these last few years my photos have taken a quantum leap in terms of quality. So I'm going to show you the 3 things that I've been doing now that have been game changers that I so desperately needed. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to head up into that country there, and I'm going to show you how I apply these 3 things while camping in this kind of ridiculously rugged wilderness area, and then I'll bounce into the studio and show you plenty of examples of what I'm talking about. All right, this bushwhack is one of the worst I've ever had to deal with. So anyway, the tips I'm going to be sharing with you once I fight through all of this stuff are sequential in nature, from the easiest to implement to the hardest to implement. But by taking the time to constantly improve on these and really master them, in combination, they are a recipe for awesome landscape photos. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you the one thing you really don't need to worry about, although an awful lot of people do. All right, so let's just jump right into tip number 1. Has to do with composition. What you want your photographs to have is a good foreground, midground, and background. You want to have as many layers as you possibly can, layers that don't overlap or interfere with each other too much. And what that does for you is it provides a sense of depth to your photo, a sense of scale, and it also tells the story of the location or the place. I used to take photos that were just zoomed into my subject really close so I could get as much detail as I could, but my viewers couldn't tell if I was standing on the edge of a parking lot or if I was just shooting from a helicopter or where I was. So having a good foreground in your image tells the story of where you're at, and you want that foreground to interact nicely with the background as well. So you got to kind of move those back and forth to find that good composition. So the first thing I would recommend you doing, no matter if you're up high in the mountains or just practicing in a local park, is try to get a foreground, a midground, and a background in your photos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try, I just got around this lake here. I'm camped right on the other side of that, and I don't think we're going to have much sunset light because the clouds are socked in here. But I'm going to get up on the top of this bench and shoot towards a pretty cool mountain range that's up there and see if I can find a good composition with those 3 elements in it. I think there's going to be a really cool single tree sticking up around the corner here, and then a cliff face and the mountain. So let's see what we can find once I get through this. Yeah, I think right over there, there's a single tree that's sticking up. I think that's going to be really cool as my foreground. So I've got my composition dialed up here, and I think, let me bring that back. I think this vertical shot is going to be the best shot. And what you can see here is I have some different layers. I've got the this foreground layer here with the rocks, and then a cliff layer there, and then the mountain layer right up on top. Like I was saying, you don't want your layers to overlap too much. I do have this single tree sticking up in the foreground, and it goes through all the different layers, which is fine for this because it's a major element. It's a very heavy weighted element. So in this case, my foreground has a lot of weight, which is balanced by the cliff face over here. This cliff face keeps you interested in the photograph or the elements on this side of the image, but it's also very heavy over here, and that tree has a lot of weight as well. I think this is a good example of having a foreground, midground, and a background. Ooh, I'm going to take that. I like that right there with the clouds going through. Take that shot. So anyway, this is my composition that I have with the those three elements for tip number one, and I'm going to wait here for a little while and see if I get any better light as the sun sets. But I think this is probably it, which pretty much skunked as far as the light is concerned, but I really do like that composition. I brought the saturation way down in the final image just so I could really emphasize the shapes and the form and the contrast of the photo. I think that this really displays the mood and the feeling that I had in that dreary evening light. Well, I'm pretty happy with that tree composition that I took tonight. And tomorrow, I'm planning on going up and spending the night up on that summit. Actually, I think that's just part of the ridge. I think the summit's beyond. Spend the night up there, and I will be telling you about tip number 2 for awesome, awesome landscape photos. So I will see you then. After a good night's sleep, the next day I climbed up to the top of the ridge and set myself up a nice cozy bivvy. This would be my home for the next night. Wow, this is incredible. I'm just about at 13,000 feet right here, and sunset is coming along real soon, which means an awesome opportunity to take landscape photography. Wow. And that brings me to my second tip, which is sunrise and sunset. Learning how to shoot in low light conditions requires you to carry a tripod like I did all the way up here, but also you need to learn the exposure triangle and how to set your camera shutter and aperture and ISO so that it can handle low light conditions. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that while I'm up here. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that you can check out for that, but I will be showing you the settings I use, and if I get skunked for sunset, then I'll be here for sunrise as well. So we're still about an hour away from sunset, which means it's really not that dark yet, but here's a composition I just really loved because of the just the depth and the shadows and all the rocks and the mountains over there. So I'll go through the settings here. I've got ISO set to 100 and f11, and then auto shutter is at 1/25th of a second. And you can see here I have the exposure compensation set to 1 full stop under nominal. Let's go ahead and take that photo again, and this time I'm going to change the exposure compensation up a little bit, and now we've got a 1/80th of a second. Go ahead and take that shot, and let's look at the histogram now. Yeah, so now we've got a good balanced histogram. The darks aren't blown or aren't completely black, and the whites aren't blown out yet. So, and those yellows are really bright, so they're not blown out. So that's really important. So this composition is a little bit different than the one I just showed you in the field, but it's one that I took in that series using the same exact settings. I just like this composition a little bit better. So this is the original raw file with no adjustments on it, and I thought that with all of these deep contrast and just the form of this image, it would make a really good black and white. So this is my final adjustments with the conversion into black and white. And why don't I show that to you a little closer now? In this shot, I wanted to get the sky as being kind of the main part of the photo, and as you can see, the light from the sunset is just getting really cool. And then I've got the mountains down here just at the very bottom of the screen. As for the settings there, we've got ISO 100, f11. Those two are kind of nominal for me with landscape photography, and the auto shutter is 1/10 of a second. I've got the histogram dropped down a little bit from all the way to the right, because let's go ahead and take the shot. And now let's take a peek here at the histogram, different channels. The red, it's got a big spike here, but as you can see, it kind of drops down. I could probably push that a little bit more, but overall that's not too bad. And let's take a look at that full image. I really like that. That's awesome. Again, this is a slightly different composition than the one that I showed taking in the field. Just because it's almost fully dark doesn't mean that you have to stop taking photos, as long as you know how to get the right settings in low light. That brings us to the last way to have your photos really stand out from the crowd, and that step is arguably the hardest. Let me start by showing you examples of what not to do. What do these three photos have in common? Well, they just aren't very good. We've got Pikes Peak, Long's Peak, and the Maroon Bells. These three subjects are already highly photographed, and there is just nothing special about these pictures. A simple Google search would show you hundreds of better photos of these exact locations. So just shooting something that others have had a lot of success with probably isn't going to work. So you could do what I've done here with Long's Peak and find unique compositions all of your own. Or better yet, find your own subjects, ones that aren't on the list of famous photography hotspots. This last step of finding truly unique locations is why I'm out here, to see a landscape that few people get to see and to take completely original photos. This was a sunrise photo from my bivvy site that morning, and it is truly a unique shot. Finding your own compositions is the hardest and arguably the most important for making your photos stand out, because that is a process that allows you to develop your own style or vision. It's the part of landscape photography that is creative and artistic. There are tricks that you can use to make unique compositions, get low, get high, use framing, but that's just the starting point. By choosing your own subject, your own compositions, you get to tell the story of your choosing. You get to pick the mood and express yourself. What do you want the viewer to learn about you? What is revealed about you based on the scene that you choose and how you capture it? By avoiding the hot spots and the iconic scenes, you are starting with a blank canvas and can explore for yourself. Not only does this give you a portfolio of unique images, but I found it to be vastly more satisfying as well. I was blessed to find calm conditions at this alpine tarn on my last day there. In this video, we talked about the 3 things that you need to capture awesome photos. First, you need practice composing with layers, including a foreground that tells you the story and provides scale. Secondly, you need to learn to shoot in low light so that you can capture sunrise and sunset. And third, you need to be able to find your own compositions. So now let me share with you what you don't need to worry about, and that is expensive gear. So let me just show you my whole kit that I take with me while I'm backpacking on a trip like this one. I keep everything inside of this f-stop bag, and it just goes inside my big backpack. And then inside, what I've got here is a Canon RP mirrorless camera. I built this bracket for it. This is one of Canon's very first mirrorless cameras, and it's not one of their more expensive or best, but it works great for me. I have 2 lenses that go with it. I have a 24 to 240 telephoto zoom lens that goes down to f4.0, and I have a Sigma 17 to 35 wide angle lens that goes to f2.8. This lens is great for astrophotography and close-ups, and this gets me distant objects as well as some wildlife photography. So this is a great combination of lenses. As far as the extras that I carry, I have a polarizer that I don't actually use that often, extra batteries, and a little kit for cleaning and some tools for repair, and then a little rain jacket for the camera in case it's raining. I just want to keep it protected, and that's it. That's everything I take with me. So don't get tripped up and feel pressured to buy all the latest and greatest cameras. All modern cameras are really good, high quality cameras, so you don't need to worry about that. Anyway, I'm really glad you came with me on this this adventure, and I hope that if you got something out of it, you'll consider clicking the subscribe button below, and I will see you again next time. Thanks.